Okay, so what do we have? Patch 25.12 full preview. We'll mainly look at mid, so what do they got? Aurora struggles a bunch and some of the mages that outrange her, and some of the tanker champs struggles to kill later in the game, giving her more opportunities in the short term to play the lanes. Okay, LeBlanc's in on the burst champ, it's been worse for wear. I swear LeBlanc is pretty good. I think that people are just, I don't know, people are in the mindset of like LeBlanc is still a blind pick like she was before. I'd say nowadays you definitely need to counter pick LeBlanc, so yeah, I don't know. TF isn't strong enough to keep up with the meta. That's very true. There's a lot of champions, I think, that just do what TF does better. Yeah, that's basically what they say here, like Taliyah and Galio. Ahri is getting a tap down in a way that doesn't change your W versus E incentives. E max second is normally prioritized in higher levels of play. Okay. Giving more windows for opponents to find earlier kill angles. Oh, that's base. Like, Taliyah and Hilo, it's so hard to kill. Finally, some straightforward nerfs to Azir's output. Okay, let's have a look at the actual changes themselves. So, what do we have here? First off, Aatrox. Champion healing 80% of damage to 100%. Okay, that's pretty big. Each champion Omni-Vamp up as well. Okay, I swear Aatrox is already like a pretty good champion. At least, I don't know. Maybe I think that because the Aatrox is pick him in good spots for him or whatever. So, yeah. Maybe we'll just start seeing more Aatrox. Seems fine. Base AS up, Caliburn damage up, Sever's bonus MS up. Okay, I think this champ, Aphelios, is already good. I think Aphelios is a little meta gap, though. It's pretty hard for him, I feel like, to... I could be totally wrong on this because I don't play ball lane, but my impression is that Aphelios has a really hard time getting through the lane against a lot of like the meta champs, so it's kind of, I guess it's fair. Alright, Aurora. Base MR up by 2, R AP ratio up. Okay. I like the RAP ratio. I definitely think that Aurora's scaling, like, she does kind of just become utility late game unless you're, like, truly fed. I think Aurora, I mean, it's still a champ that gets played in high low quite a bit. I'm not even sure Aurora really needed a buff. Like, I think potentially just nerfing the OP champs was enough. But, I mean, yeah, it's nice. We'll take those. Bard MS up by 5. Okay, this is good and, like, not good at the same time. So 5 MS, especially on a champion that runs all around the map, super big. Now, I think one thing that keeps Bard back a little bit is that most of the mids that get played a lot right now do have dashes, and that makes life pretty difficult for Bard because it's much harder to ult, immobile that has a dash, as opposed to, like, if it's all immobile mages, then you can just ult them, on repeat, and it's super easy. I also think that just with the way the game has gone, there's more fights because there's more things to fight over, right? Like, the side laning especially doesn't last as long because a lot of the time you have to end up grouping for Atacon or whatever. So I kind of feel like Bard is still a bit outmatched just in terms of actual teamfight output. So I think that's more why he isn't played. But, I mean, this is good, right? Like, this allows him to be played more, and he is good, especially if, like, more mobiles return in the meta. Okay, Bel'Veth being buffed is... like, okay, I'm not sure the buff is, like, insane, but I just don't understand why Bel'Veth is getting buffed. Like, this champion is really broken in solo queue, and I definitely don't think she needs any buffs. So, yeah, okay, whatever. Garen, E damage, E damage, okay, I see. E damage base decreased. I don't know what the bug was. Okay, honestly, I don't know if that does anything or not. I guess he's just, like, a little weak or whatever. I think Garen being weak's fine, though, low-key. Okay, Jax bonus passive AS per stack. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Does that make a huge difference? I think Jax is also a bit meta gaps, right? Like, there's a lot of Jax counters in the meta, I feel like. LeBlanc E2 AP ratio up by 5%, and R cooldown down. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the camp of LeBlanc didn't really need a buff. I think she is, like, a pretty good situational counter. I would be pretty surprised if this does anything. I feel like... See, the thing is, the time you're going to hit E2 is mostly in the early game. Like, the early to mid game. I think late game, where you're actually using... Or rather, late game, and you actually have enough AP for this really to make a difference, you're not really going to connect E2 anyway. Right, like, most likely you're going for a double dash combo, or you're going for, like, a QRE or something, so I'm pretty sure this is more or less cosmetic. R cooldown, yeah, also kind of whatever. I will say that, like, having 5 seconds off at rank 1 is actually kind of a big deal, because the way you trade in lane, a lot of the time you can get a really free trade just every time your ult comes up. So like, you know, maybe that means you get one extra ult off right before they get a recall or something. So that's kind of nice. And I guess 10 seconds off at level 11 is a pretty big deal. Yeah, like that's actually pretty good, right? It seems kind of good, because like level 11 is probably LeBlanc's biggest spike. So yeah, I think the R cooldown is not bad. Now the thing is, I don't think this really makes LeBlanc more pickable than she is though. I think she still kind of has to be a counterpick to either, yeah, just like matchups where you know you can snowball, or melees that you can easily, you know, play to set up ganks or whatever. Or like if you notice you have a ganking jungler and ganking support, but I don't know. I guess it just makes her a bit better, but in my mind doesn't fix her issues if LeBlanc has issues. Again, I'm kind of just in the camp of, I think they should nerf the OP champs down to like the level of these champs rather than these champs specifically needing buffs. But it kind of depends just how strong you think champions should be. Right? Like maybe the strongest champs, that is like the bar, and everything should be brought up to that. Lee Sin buff? Oh wow, E's slow up by 15% in rank 1? That's quite a lot. Okay, that feels pretty solid, especially for ganking when your red buff is down. Lord Q rank up, okay, whatever. Nidalee E AP ratio. This is an interesting one. I personally think Nidalee jungle sucks, but I think Nidalee top, at least in Korean solo queue, is really OP. Now, I guess this doesn't really affect Nidalee top because they don't build AP. I think they do build Darksteel though. Yeah, it probably doesn't make too much of a difference. Yeah, it seemed like an okay change to me. Passive MS per stack, 2 to 3.5, 2.75. Okay, I gotta be honest, I don't really know if this does anything for Samira. I don't really know what Samira's problems are. I assume it's that she just kind of gets blasted in lane and has a really hard time actually taking off. I guess this means that when you do get fed, it's gonna be better. I'm not sure though. Samira's a champ I don't like know anything about, and she just never gets played in ILO, so I actually don't even know. Okay, TFR cooldown down by 20. I think this is a good change. I do think this is a good change because I think that when you compare TF to champs like Aurora or Rise or Ahri or, you know, Taliyah, champs that are kind of like other push and movers, one of the big problems is that TF's actual teamfight output is much lower. Like, just TF in a team fight compared to one of these champs, you just do a hell of a lot less. So I like that they're kind of leaning into his R identity by reducing the cooldown, because there's not really any other power you could give it, right? Because, I don't know, I mean, if you made it, like, bigger range early, I mean, I guess you could ult from further away to bot lane, which would be kind of nice. It'd also be quite frustrating to play against, though. And then bonus attack speed up. I mean, maybe that brings TF top back. TF top was pretty destructive. I think TF top was, I mean, when it was broken, was really, really annoying to play against. I actually really hope that TF top doesn't come back, but I do like the TFR change. I think that's kind of cool. Okay, Zeri R damage is up by 25. Bonus AD up as well. Wow, and R chain lightning AD ratio. Okay, that seems pretty significant. I think Zeri's a champ that is kind of underrated at the moment. Like, if you can get a good Zeri game, I think she does scale really well. And now she scales even better, so yeah, okay. Zeri could be back. Alright, now let's look at the nerfs. Okay, so Charm E duration, 1.2 to 2 to 1.2 to 1.8. I don't think that makes a huge difference. I think that most of the time, like, if someone does get charmed, they're going to take all the damage and die almost regardless. So I feel like that doesn't make a huge difference. This, though, I think this is a nice change, like R cooldown being up by 10 at the first rank. That is good, because it's really hard to punish Ahri with ganks or, you know, solo kills or whatever. And part of that is the ult cooldown is so low, even early game, with all the, you know, haste that she buys early. And the fact that she has Ultimate Hunter, you know, just from level 1. So, yeah, I think good change. I really would like to see them... Yeah, I would really like to see them nerf Ahri's passive sustain a little bit. Not a ton, but I think that, you know, Ahri, just because she does dip into the electrocute tree, has Taste of Blood. A lot of the time will have Second Wind or Bone Plating. And, I mean, I think it's unhealthy for any champ to have a lot of sustain. You're right, like, I'm a big D-Shield Second Wind hater, but I think it's particularly problematic on a champ as safe as Ahri. Because at least, like, a lot of these melees do have to kind of, like, commit forward to CS or whatever. That feels kind of... I don't know. I guess... It's an okay change. I think it's a change in the wrong direction, though. I really want to see passive healing changed. Azir movement speed down by 5. That's pretty big. That's really big, actually, because a lot of the matchups that do counter Azir are skill shot champions, right? You think of things like, Syndra laning against Azir, or Ori laning against Azir. People even, play things like Xerath or Mel or whatever. So that does make a pretty big difference. That could be the difference between getting hit by 1 or 2 more skill shots, and suddenly that's an extra, 1 or 200 damage. That's a big nerf. Bonus AS per level, also a big nerf. I think, okay, it's not insane, but, yeah, no, I don't know. It's not insane. The thing is, like, a lot of the time you're not using all your attack speed unless you're just hitting a tank, but I suppose it does make you feel a little... Like, it's a little harder, I guess, to get your lethal tempos stacked if you're playing a build that doesn't have Nasher. And some people do that, right? Like the Leandry builds. I think overall it's not a big deal. To me, this is a pretty big nerf, though. I think it makes him way more punishable in lane, which is nice. I think it's a good change. Gwen nerf? Dude, Gwen needs to just be absolutely deleted from the game. I don't think this is enough of a nerf at all. 20 base HP and 2-second W? No, I don't think it's enough. I don't know what they need to do to Gwen, but they need to do something about this champion. She's so disgustingly broken as a counter pick. I mean, they could just delete Gwen and I wouldn't be mad. I really think, I don't know, maybe reduce the amount of true damage this champion does. I feel like her ratio of true damage to rest of damage is pretty high. Kalista nerfed? Yeah, I guess this is a pro play change. I actually really rarely see Kalista in solo queue, even in Korea. But yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, it kind of overperforms. Although, I mean, the change is not... Well, I mean, I suppose it adds up. Alright, Neeko. Neeko's another champ that needs nerfs. So Neeko is disgustingly broken in support. I see Neeko support all the time. So what have they done? Q initial damage down by 20 and AP ratio up. Okay, so they're trying to target Neeko support while keeping Neeko mid alive. Still though, like, this does really impact Neeko mid because, I mean, it's going to take a long time, right? Probably like 2 items to outperform the damage difference here. And also, like, Neeko mid really needs to win lane. Like, she does not scale as well as other champs. So, yeah, I mean, they try to target support, but to me, that just feels like an overall Neeko nerf. That's pretty heavy. I mean, that's a pretty sizable nerf. Like, 20 damage per Q, though. That's a fuck ton. Okay, Rumble, another champ that has been broken for, like, 10 patches in a row. Q max health damage is down. E slow amount down. Okay, I like the E slow being down. Especially if you hit 2 harpoons, it does feel pretty punishing. I think it's a fair nerf. I think Rumble's a cool champ, and I like him being in the meta, but he is a bit disgusting. I think it might be good to reduce the amount of pen granted by hitting, like, empowered harpoons or something. I don't know. Because Rumble does just shred, like, a crazy amount of matter resist just for existing. Okay, they're nerfing Senna after it's getting picked every game. Dude, that's funny. They actually just go back and forth on this champ literally every patch. I think Senna, I don't know, she almost seems like a bait in solo queue, though. I mean, the champ is really, really strong, but she takes a while to really come online. Like, you're really relying on your front line and your bruises and stuff to be powerful early. You do scale kind of like a monster, though. Okay, Taliyah base MR down by 2, and powered Q amp down as well. Dude, it's interesting that they always do these base MR nerfs. I guess the reason they do it is because they don't want to punish, like, skilled Taliyah players or whatever, but I almost think this should be the other way around. I think they should nerf Taliyah's movement speed in the same way they nerfed Azir's. Or maybe, like, nerf her movement speed near walls or something, because it's really hard to hit Taliyah with skill shots in lane, I feel like, on most champions. And... yeah, I don't know. Like, does 2 base MR make a difference? I mean, it all adds up, right? Like, it could be the difference between getting a kill or not. But I think, if anything, I'd really like to see her movement speed, especially in the first, like, 3 or 4 levels touched. I can't remember how the passive, like, wall movement speed thing scales, but I kind of wish that were tuned down a little bit. Power Q amp, yeah, it's kind of whatever. Varus armor down by 3. Okay, yeah, I mean, I guess Varus is a bit of a terror in bot lane. I think this is another champ that is much better and competitive than solo queue, though, so... it's kind of whatever. Yorick Q bonus, so 30 to 130, 30 to 110. Mistwalker AS. Okay, so you're... wait, what does this even do? They're, like, trying to just make it so you're, like, a little worse early and you scale later, or that you're not meant to. What does Yorick even build? I mean, he doesn't build anything with attack speed, right? I don't know enough about Yorick itemization to say if that does anything, but I mean, it's meant to be a nerf, right? So I guess we'll see. Alright, then there's the Rammus Rework. Yeah, that'll be really interesting. I don't know how to feel about the Rammus Rework. I think Rammus is kind of an AIDS champion. Like, I don't really want to see Rammus be meta. And then what are they doing to Vi? They're adjusting her. Vi's another champion that I think is extremely broken in solo queue. So are they trying to incentivize her to build damage? Yeah, okay, so this just does scales more with bonus AD. W attack speed is down. Total AD. Okay, so they are trying to incentivize you to build a bit more damage, which probably is good. I mean, a lot of these bruiser jungles do a fuck ton of damage while also being very tanky, which is super annoying. Top lane damage importance increased. Okay, yeah, this is a funny change. I swear Atacon is bot lane in like 80% of games, so I guess it's good. And finally, grasp range nerf, 60% to 40%. Yeah, it does affect a few mids, right? Like Victor is one, Azir sometimes is another. Who else takes grasp mid? I feel like that's the only big ones. There's probably a couple others. Okay, so overall, like, who are the big winners and losers? I think in the buffs, I'd say Aurora's a pretty big winner. I think Aatrox is a pretty big winner. Actually, you know, I take it back about Aurora. I mean, okay, here's the thing with Aurora. She's a big winner in the sense that I think this champ's already quite good, but I don't think the buffs are insane. Aatrox buffs seem really big. I think LeBlanc is kind of whatever. Lee buff looks pretty good. TF buff looks pretty good. Zeri buff looks pretty good. And then the big nerfs. Okay, I think Ahri will still be fine. Pretty sure that champ's still very solid. Azir, this definitely punishes or like allows you to punish laning phase a lot harder. So that seems like a pretty big nerf because that's Azir's only real weak time in the game is that like very initial laning phase. Neeko seems like she's just been absolutely destroyed. Rumble, Taliyah, these all seem fine. Okay, so really the big ones are like Azir, Neeko, probably TF, Zeri, and I guess like Aatrox, Aurora. Yeah, I mean, look, it's nice to see that they're doing more changes. I still think a lot of the changes are like more or less cosmetic though. I do feel like they could go a bit harder with some of the changes. Like, dude, like what the fuck is it? I feel like the Gwen change, they need to do something major to that champ, man. Well, TFBS tier? No, I don't think so. I wouldn't say so. He's probably just like a solid A.